I specifically want to make it illegal to be almost as wealthy as you. Not quite, but a little bit more. Like, I want to make it not illegal. You're not going to go to jail.
So nobody can be no billionaires. No billionaires in America.
Absolutely.
Sam,
100%.
Why? Don't you want America to be known for greatness, for innovation, for capitalism, for all the amazing things that we've done in this country?
My definition of
you
greatness,
want to go to like Nordic socialism.
My definition of greatness is different from yours.
Patrick Bet-David brought on the woke idiot Sam Seder onto his podcast on Valuetainment, the PBD podcast, and Sam Seder started to throw out some actual attacks against Patrick Bet-David, some personal attacks to try and get his point across. And of course, Patrick Bet-David, as we all know, is not going for that. He's not going to allow that, and he absolutely destroys Sam Seder, this woke lunatic, live on Valuetainment on the PBD podcast. Let's get into this clip here of Patrick Bet-David destroying this woke idiot Sam Seder.
Money was so freaking cheap for so long that we have to pay a price for it. And now you're looking at the economy. It looked like everything was good, but a big part of it was fake, Sam. We had a lot of fake success the last few years.
Well, I mean, look, I'm just measuring on, again, the way I view things is what's going to make things better for the most amount of people. And in terms of, like, it being in favor of the capitalists, I would also change our tax policy. So, I mean, I would claw some of that back, quite a bit of it back.
What would you do?
I would return to the tax policy when we had the greatest, sort of the widest economic expansion shared by more people as a percentage of our population than any other time in this country, which was in the 50s and the 60s. And I would return to the tax rates more or less there. So your top tax rate at that time was 90%, top marginal rate, for every dollar over $470,000 you would earn. So that would be equivalent to around $3 million today. I think we should return to that type of tax
You want it
scheme.
to go as high as 90% at the top marginal tax?
At the top marginal tax rate. So understand, like, that only kicks in with every dollar above $3 million.
I hear you. And
yeah,
I mean, that's the famous Reagan situation where I think it was anything over $200,000 at that point. This might have been in the 40s, that he would only do 2 movies a year because he'd get paid $100 grand per movie, and then he wouldn't even do a third movie because he would only get 10% of the revenue because he's like, fuck it, I'm not doing another movie.
Yeah.
So wouldn't that curb growth?
When Reagan started telling that story, you know who he was working for when he started telling that story, right? He was going around, I think it was working for GE, trying to convince people not to get Medicare for all. I mean, if Reagan could have gotten 3 movies or 5 movies, he would have done it. He was probably pretty close.
So let me ask you a question.
And I was a single guy who had just gone from making, to $22,000 a year to all of a sudden making that.
How much were you
making
making
a week
at that point?
I mean, I was making a lot of money.
Now, how comfortable at that point would you have been paying 90% in taxes?
Sure.
So you actually want to pay 90% in taxes?
No. Let's be clear.
That?
I think it should be 90% over for every dollar you make over $3 million.
Yeah.
That would not have impacted me at that time. But I would have been happy to pay.
So he specifically wants the tax laws to be built around what he makes, what specifically Sam Seder makes. And in a second here, he's about to start throwing some shots at Patrick Bet-David himself and how much money he makes. This, to me, and let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on this. I would love to hear your opinion, but to me, this is like a very much a loser mentality whenever you're like, oh, I think anyone who makes over $3 million should be taxed 90%. Dude, that's such a loser mentality, I think. Like, that's coming from people that have given up on ever making $3 million in a year, which is, you've basically accepted failure. You've accepted defeat. I understand not everybody wants to make that much money, or that's what they say anyway, but I think anybody given the opportunity would say, yeah, I'll take $3 million a year. They're just not willing to put the work in to get there. People like Patrick Bet-David are making much more than that, and they're the ones that are fighting for less taxes for everyone. And then there's people like Sam Seder, who are probably, I don't know how much he makes, but I would say it's probably less than $3 million a year, who was saying, yeah, if you make over $3 million a year now, you should probably get taxed 90% on that. Like, what? That's an insane tax rate, man. In my opinion, I don't think you should be punished for putting in hard work and making a lot of money, because obviously there's a law of supply and demand, right? You know, if you're making $3 million a year, you're providing some sort of value to the marketplace, and you shouldn't be punished for providing that sort of value. Patrick Bet-David shouldn't get punished just because Sam Seder says that he should, and because Sam Seder has given up on making the same amount of money that Patrick Bet-David or that Adam or anyone on the PBD podcast panel makes, they shouldn't be punished because of that. They shouldn't be punished because they provide a lot of value to the marketplace. That's really stupid as a loser mentality, a defeatist mentality, in my opinion. Let me know in the comments if I'm wrong on that. Let's get back to what Sam Seder has to say with these dumbass points he's making about Patrick Bet-David here.
Pay more taxes.
But why would anyone want to
You know why I'm laughing? Because it's always let's tax the people a little richer than me. It's always let's tax the guys
it was
that
a
are
lot richer.
But
I'm just going back.
If you're saying 20,
I'm just going back.
If you're saying 22 a week, you were making $1,098,000. That's a lot of money.
No. Well, it wasn't 20.
You said 22 a week. That's $1 million a year.
No. That was the year before. I mean,
but you're making money.
I was making a bunch of money. But I'm just going back to when we had the Great Compression, which was when we had the least wealth inequality in this country. We had the GDP was, consistent.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
With where, on our trajectory, but it was spread out. It wasn't like this. Essentially,
Rob,
it was more spread out. It's called the Great Compression. And I'm just using that figure. I mean, look, if it's going to be 85% over 3 million or 85% over 4 million, I'm just basing it on what was the most successful economic era of this country.
Why not do 90% over $250,000?
I mean, if the numbers bear it out, I'm agnostic as to that. Again, I'm just pegging it on when we had the most success in this country in terms of our economy.
I appreciate that you're pointing.
Yeah, I disagree. Once again, whenever people can logic themselves into a position, I appreciate the position a lot more. Seems like Sam Seder is at least able to do the mental gymnastics to logic himself into this position in his own brain. To me and to everyone else who's probably watching this, maybe I'm off base. Maybe you guys completely disagree. To me, this is absolutely ridiculous for multiple different reasons. Number one, like I stated earlier, I don't think people like Patrick Bet-David should be taxed more, should be punished because they provide more value to the marketplace. To say that Sam Seder said that he doesn't think people should be making as much as Patrick Bet-David makes, it's a loser mentality, it's a defeatist mentality, because you've accepted that you'll never make as much as PBD makes. And that's number one. Number two, in a perfect world, yes, us paying more taxes equals a better country for all of us, right? And in a perfect world as well, since the United States is the most powerful country in the world, it would make a better world overall, not just a better country. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a very, 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 very imperfect world where our tax dollars are blown, are wasted. I'm pretty sure something just came out the other day that said we accidentally sent like 239 billion or something like that to the Taliban on accident. It's like, oops, we just taxed you guys like crazy amounts of money. We get taxed on money that's coming in. We get taxed on money that's going out. We get taxed on unrealized gains. We get taxed on everything. And yet you're just sending $239 billion to the Taliban on accident. It's like, that's why I say taxation is theft. Because not only do they do that on quote unquote accident, but even the money that they spend on purpose is incorrectly spent, is used incorrectly. So that's why I get so mad when people like Sam Seder exist, where it's like, yeah, we should tax the rich people even more. Because number one, I'm trying to get rich. I'm not a defeatist. I'm not saying that I already lost and that I'll never make as much as Patrick Bet-David makes. I'm trying to get there. So I still have that fire in me to get there, even though other people might have given up on it. Number two, even if we do get taxed that much money, it's all going to be blown on things that doesn't matter. It's going to be blown on getting more trans people in the military, getting more trans generals in the military. It's going to be blown on Ukraine and other foreign wars, like the war in the Middle East. It's going to be blown on stuff like that. It's going to be accidentally sending $230 billion to the Taliban. It's like, it's going to be blown on Nancy Pelosi's pocket. But like, dude, all this money is just going to be wasted. So that's why I think all taxes are theft. That's why whenever people like Anna Kasparian and Sam Seder will go on shows like the PBD podcast and talk about how Donald Trump is evil because he doesn't pay as much taxes as he should, not because he's doing anything illegal, but because he's using loopholes in the tax law to pay less taxes, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's actually based as hell. Even if the guy is doing something that is not completely legal, I think it's based, because the tax money that he does give to the government is going to be absolutely wasted or used on things that we want the opposite to happen. It's going to be used to stoke the flames of these foreign wars so that we can dump more tax dollars into it. It's like, that's the opposite of what we want to happen. So I think it's based to not pay as much taxes as they want you to pay. Anyway, let's see what else Sam Cedar has to say to Patrick Bet-David here.
Pointing out the success, but right now the top marginal tax rate federally is 37, 39. Okay, you do realize how shocking it is to say, all right, rather than go from 37 to 39, yeah, how about 40?
How many?
How about 50?
How many?
You want to go to 90?
How many people do you
90.
assume? How many people do you assume would be?
Real quick as well. Let's say that we are going to tax people as much as Sam Cedar is telling Patrick Bet-David and Adam Sosnick and these guys that he wants to tax people. Do you realize that a lot of the greatest inventors of the world, a lot of people like Elon Musk, innovative minds, they will have zero incentive to invent new things, zero incentive to, buy things like X and turn it into the free speech platform, do stuff like Starlink, create electric cars, which I don't like. I like V8s, but regardless, it's still innovation. They'll have zero incentive. Like talked about Reagan earlier, who said, I don't want to do more than 2 movies a year because after I make $200,000, I only get 10% of the income afterwards. So what's the point? That's how everybody's going to think. I don't want to become an inventor. I don't want to make more than $200K a year. I don't want to make more than whatever the arbitrary number that Sam Cedar would come up with. I don't want to make more than that. Why the hell would I try to do that and try to be innovative whenever I don't have to? Because even if I provide this much value to the marketplace, the government's just going to steal all the money that I make from that value that I'm providing. So what's the point? So it's going to, like I said, in a perfect world, it would make the country better. But we've seen it over and over again with other countries. This does not work. Communism doesn't work. So it's just going to not only take our money, steal our money, and spend it in foreign wars and nonsense, but also it's going to disincentivize everyone from actually innovating and inventing new things and making the world a better place because there's going to be no reward.
Be touched by that tax, would be implicated.
Top 1%. Look at this number right here. Share of total income taxes paid.
Less.
The top 1% in this country pay 42.3%. The bottom 50% only pay 2.3%. So 150 million people are paying nothing in taxes.
Right.
And you want to keep the 1% paying more and more.
I think it's actually even less than 1%, to be honest with you. I think we're talking about 0.05%.
Sure, but let's tax them even more.
Oh, I specifically want to make it illegal to be almost as wealthy as you. Not quite, but a little bit more. Like I want to make it not illegal. You're not going to go to jail.
So nobody can be no billionaires. No billionaires in America.
Absolutely.
Sam,
100%.
Why? Don't you want America to be known for greatness, for innovation, for capitalism, for all the amazing things that we've done in this country?
My definition of
you want to go to like Nordic socialism.
My definition of greatness is different from yours.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another,
I would love to have heard what Sam Cedar's definition of greatness is. I agree with Adam, and that's hard for me to say. I don't agree with Adam on many things. I didn't watch, you guys know I don't pre-watch these, but Adam was making the exact point that I was making earlier. If we go with Sam Cedar's route, where he's saying, I don't think people should be allowed to be as rich as Patrick Bet-David is, then the things that Patrick Bet-David has accomplished isn't some, ground shattering things. He didn't invent anything new, but he is doing some important things. People like Patrick Bet-David, though, who have invented some crazy things. If you think about everything that's around us right now, somebody came up with all of this, and they were incentivized to because they knew they would get filthy rich if they did. If that incentive isn't there anymore, if there's no reason to work hard, there's no reason to invent new things, innovate, then our country's just going to fall into, Venezuela. It's going to be like I don't know if it will become a third world country immediately, but it will definitely fall off. No doubt about it. I don't know how these people can't see it. I refuse to believe that someone like Sam Cedar can't see that. And I think he's just going on these shows grifting. He's just going on Patrick Bet-David's show. And I think he's just grifting. I think he just grifts off his audience. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you thought about Sam Cedar basically straight up attacking Patrick Bet-David and saying, I don't think people should be as rich as you are. And Patrick Bet-David just laughing in his face. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole Valuetainment and PBD podcast episode.